Anyway, this couple's from Childress, and this is what they've been called to do, is sing. And they asked anytime we wanted them to come. They'd come to the church for free, or we could give them an offering or whatever to sing. And me and LR had both invited them to come to the Fifth Sunday singing just as a guest. And so, and speaking of Fifth Sunday singing, we might be some representatives for singing that might need to start, working on their songs that they're going to sing. Now, if they have the nerve to get it, because that's it's and more people, more intimidation. Not trying to put no pressure on you there, Josie. No pressure, Josie. Yeah, no pressure there. But no, in 1 Samuel chapter 30, this is where David, last week we found David where he was with the Philistines, and he'd been living with the Philistines for the last year and a half. And the Philistines, is the guy that Amish, I think was the guy, the king that he was with, he told him, "You're going to go to war with me. We're going to fight the Philistines." And then we're going to fight the Israelites, David's people. And David's like, "All for it, man, let's go." And then he got around the other kings, the other Palestinian kings said, "No, we're not taking him in a battle, because at any moment he could turn on us and be behind us, and we'd be attacking the front and the back, and that's not a good place to be." I'm assuming, I've never been in war, but to me that wouldn't sound like a good place to be. But anyway, so the Philistines, they ran David off, and David now, he's going back to Ziklag. This was a city that the Amish had given him. He had given him this town, and David had been going around and secretly raiding the Philistine armies, the smaller armies, but David was killing everybody, women, children, and when I thought about that, I thought, man, I see a lot of times where God tells people in the Bible to destroy everybody, even their crops and everything. And I thought, man, God, that's really harsh. Because when he told Saul to kill the Amalekites, he said kill women, children, crops, fatted cows, everything. And it's like, why would God do this? Why would God want to wipe out his children? Well, what does children become? Grown-ups.
What their parents was.
Yeah, they become grown-ups, and monkey see, monkey do. They're going to follow their parents' footsteps. If we try to be Christians and come to church and show how we love Jesus and how we want Jesus in our lives and how we live by Jesus every day, then that's what our children are going to try to hopefully follow in our footsteps. And these Amalekites, they didn't follow God. As a matter of fact, they've been attacking the Israelites for 400 years ever since they came across on the Jordan from Egypt. And God said, you know what? Enough is enough. Wipe these people out. Women, children, everybody. This is what I want you to do. And Saul didn't do that. Now we're going to see in 31 what happens to Saul when you disobey God. But in 30 here, we'll start reading verse 1. It says, David and his men reached Ziklag on the third day. Now the Amalekites had raided Negeb and Ziklag. They had attacked Ziklag and burned it. And they had taken captive the women and who all were in it, both young and old. They killed none of them, but carried off as they went on their way. Now apparently they're not like David. David killed everybody, women and kids, because he didn't want nobody going back to Amish and telling him anything that he had done. But it says, when David and his men into Ziklag, they found it destroyed by fire, their wives and sons and daughters had taken captive. So David and his men wept aloud until they had no strength left to weep. David's two wives had been captured, Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of Nabal of Carmel. David was greatly distressed because the men were talking of stoning him. Wait a minute now. This is a man of God's own heart, and these guys are talking about stoning him. That's what you start thinking. What's in these guys' hearts now? And I come across a deal that I thought was pretty cool. And because if you put over here in your notes, if you got a pen over here in your notes, I want you to do something real quick. I want you to write down the word lie. L-I-E. Now, since these guys were talking about stoning David, why would they want to stone David? Because they went out fighting, they come back, their stuff's stolen, and now people are like, man, is David really our ruler? And what's the quickest way to start attacking a ruler or somebody in a above you position? To lie. Okay, lie. What's the middle letter in lie? I. Okay. Now, if you have obedience to God, write down the word obedience. O-B-E-E-I-E-N-C-E. In the middle, between them letters, are the word what? I. Now, see what we need to be having here is I need to have obedience to my God. But on some other people, have a lie in their heart. And when they have that lie in their heart, they don't become obedient. And if you take and circle the three letters inside of the other three letters, what do you have? You have the word die inside of there. D-I-E. And that's what happens when we get away from obedience in God, is we die inside. And so you'll be reading about that in Saul here in 31, is the dying part. Like what happens when people start telling lies and seeing people that they hurt, kind of get when I worked out at GP, I had a guy I hate him. And he got fired out there after so many years of me being gone. And it's like, oh man, I was so happy to hear that. I wasn't walking with God like I should be. But you know what I had then? I had this word too, so write it down. It's called pride. P-R-I-D-E. What's in between them two letters? I. There's a lot of I's in this world, isn't there? There's a lot of I need this, I need that. I don't like this guy, I don't like that girl, I don't like. So I'm going to do whatever I can and not be obedient to God, but I'm going to do what? I'm going to have another word you write down. Guilt. G-U-I-L-T, yeah. I'm dyslexic now, so keep bear with me now, okay? What's in the middle of that one? I. So when you have guilt, who's having that guilt? I'm having that guilt in my life. Why am I having that guilt? Because I'm not obedient to God. God tells me to do something, and guess what I'm doing? I'm running away from Him. No, God, I know what your plan is, but Sean has a better plan. Sean has a better plan, and guess who come up with that plan? I did. Yeah. Guess what happened when I wound up in jail one time? Guess who got me there? I did. Yeah, guess who's facing that judge one time thinking, oh man, I hope I don't go to jail over this. I did. Why? Because I was making all these stupid decisions because I wasn't obedient to God. And when you do that, you live with deceit and dishonesty in your life. Who wants this dishonesty? Who wants to be dishonest? Nobody? It's not cool enough, or you'll be dishonest? You don't even know what the word means. Who wants to be deceitful? Who wants to be deceitful to somebody? Who wants to say, you know what? I love you. And there's people that do this. There's people that learn loving you when they're stabbing a knife in your back as they're talking to you. There's people like that. And why? Because that nasty little word, I. Who has two thumbs and can be deceitful? This guy, you know. But I don't want to be that way. And that's what David's being right now. They're saying, man, this is our leader. This is the man chosen of God's own heart. But now we're going to be deceitful. We're going to stone this dude to death. Guess what? You know, sometimes I feel bad because it's like, man, I hear somebody talk about one of my church members, talk about me or something. I think, man, that's hurtful, you know. But then I think about right here in David. David had 600 men fixing to stone him to death. That is not a good place to be. David might have been a mighty warrior, but 600 people, you can't fight that many people. I don't care if you killed Goliath or not. Now, what'd you say? But God can. And that's the good thing about it. Okay, right here. But David found the strength in what? The Lord, his God. Is that where we're supposed to turn to when we get weak? Do we turn to God when we get weak, or do we turn to our weaknesses? We say, you know what? This could strengthen me with my God, but I'm going to turn to my weaknesses. I'm going to try to, it's ruined my life, but I'm going to keep going back to it. But David said, no, I'm going back to what I really know, and what I really know is my God, my Lord, my Savior, who has gotten me out of so many binds and taught me how to be a better person in my life, how to treat people, and how treat people how you want to be treated. Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Be God-like. Treat people like we love them. And that David so then David said to Abiathar, the priest of the son of Amalek, bring me the ephod. Abiathar brought it to him, and David inquired of the Lord, shall I pursue the raiding party? Will I overtake them? Pursue them, he answered. And who's he?
The Lord.
The Lord answered him. He gave him his answer. You will certainly overtake them and succeed in the rescue. David and his 600 men with him came to the Bozar ravine, where they stayed, for 200 were too exhausted and crossed the ravine, but David and the 400 men continued to pursue. I'm going to jump across some of this. They come across an Egyptian man that was in the field, and turns out he was with the Amalekites. He was a servant to one of them, and he became injured and sick, and they left him behind because he couldn't travel. So David asked him if he'd help him. And he's like, as long as you turn me over to my master, I will. So right over here in 15, David asked, can you be my raiding party? He answered, swear to me before God that you will not kill me or hand me over to my master, and I will take you down there to them. Now, this is a guy that was with the Amalekites. He was a slave to the Amalekites. But what does he say? Swear to me by your God. He was an Egyptian. And I'm taking in my heart that when he was captured as a slave, because that's what the Philistines were doing. They were going around capturing people that were Christians. Because they didn't believe in God. They believed in Baal, but not as their God. So now they're going around this guy. So he's knowing what the most powerful thing in your life is. And that's what we need to sometimes examine ourselves. What's the most important thing in our life? Because some people, you say, swear to me to your God that you won't steal from me. And they'll be like, yeah, sure, man. I don't even believe in God, but I swear to him. You know? Or you say, well, okay, I know this guy don't believe in God. Swear to me on your bank account that if you lie to me, you're going to become broke. Because that's his God. That's his God, is his bank account. But that guy knows, he sees it in David, that God is in his heart. He knows he's a man of God's own heart. And that's what he's telling him, swear to you by your God. And that's what David does, he swears to him. He led David down in 16, and there they were scattered over the countryside, eating, drinking, and relieving, because they had a great amount of plunder they had taken from the land of the Philistines and from Judah. Now, keep in mind, David had traveled 3 days to get to Ziklag. And then he found out that everything's burnt and everything else. So now they weep and cry, and then they get up and they start marching. Because this is not getting in your car and driving somewhere. It's not getting in your truck. This is marching. Dirt, hills, all this stuff every day. 3 days straight they march to get to Ziklag, and now they find this attack. Now they head out again, and 200 of them so exhausted they can't go, so now there's 400 of them. And you know they're tired. Who's been tired before? Who's had a stomach virus where you just feel so weak? You just lay, you don't want to get out of bed, just like, just nothing drained. That's how these guys probably felt. And they're marching on. They didn't have these energy drinks and all this stuff they could be popping and, caffeine pills and all this other stuff. They just had water to drink or wine. And now they're coming up there, and these other guys are drunk. They're drinking, partying, woohoo, you know, raising the roof. And so, what's the best time to attack somebody?
They're partying.
When they're partying. Got them caught them with their pants down, as you could say. Yeah. Pardon?
When they're drunk.
Yeah, when you're drunk too. Hey, what's up? You know. I don't know if you ever seen a drunk fight before, but they're not very coordinated. Oh, and I say that because I used to see my stepdad try to fight, and he wouldn't have fought to begin with. And then
He's gonna ask the enemy to join him.
yeah, then add a case on top of it where it became worse. Yeah. He's like, my fight octopus, he felt like he had 8 arms. All I seen was fists coming at me. All right. So David fought them from dusk until evening the next day. How much strength did that take? You've been all wore out, and you see them that night, you fight them all that night till the next evening. I mean, whose power were they relying on this time? They were relying on the power and the strength that God gives you when you trust Him. Don't trust anything else, that Red Bull or whatever. Trust what God can give you inside of your heart, and that is strength. God knows your body better than anybody. When we ask Him to fix us, do we ask Him to fix us and then just say, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to trust in you, God. I'm going to find some other way to do it. That's what a lot of people do. But these people trusted in God's strength, and they fought all night and all the next day till the next evening. And it says here, this one gets kind of confusing. It says, the next day, and none of them got away except 400. That's a big number when you say none of them got away, but 400 did. You know? I'd like to explain that one at the cash register at the end of the night when you're cashing your register out, and you're like, I'm not short, I'm just missing $400. You know? But anyway, the 400 young men who rode off on what? Camels. That was the Ferrari of that day. Because you know, camels can run, what is it? I'm trying to remember before I start throwing lies out. It's something like 30 to 35 miles an hour. I think how fast a camel can run. You know how fast a racehorse can run? Like 33 to 37 miles an hour. That's a racehorse. And this is just a camel. You know? And you know the cool thing about camels too? Is they can drink 5 gallons of water in 2 minutes. Could you imagine chugging 5 gallons of water in 2 minutes? And they can also, when they're full of water, they can go 15 days without drinking water. Yeah, that's the Ferrari of the desert back then. So anyway, these 400 take off. And then they get their plunder and everything else. Well, then down here in 22, when they get back, it says, but all the evil men and troublemakers among David's followers said, because they did not go out with us, we will not share the plunder we recovered. However, each man may take his wife and children and go. The 200 were tired and was unable to go. The 400 went out and fought. They said, no, it's not fair. We're going to keep everything we got. They'll get their women and children, you know, because it's theirs. But the plunder we're going to keep. And that sounds like a lot of folks right there, you know. They don't like what's it called, sharing.
What is plunder?
Plunder is like the crop, the cattle, the gold, as the pirates used to say, their booty.
Oh.
Yeah, arr, you know. That's what they're, yeah.
Okay.
And so, yeah. Because they've been robbing everybody, so don't tell them what they had. And David replied, no, my brothers, you must not do that with what the Lord has given us. And he didn't say given me, given y'all, he said given us. And the thing, I'm going to skip across this, but I still want y'all to read this. But David not only gave it to the men, but he sent it to other countries as well, other cities, and gave it wealth to them as well. Because that's what God wants us to do. He wants us to be a sharing God. You know, he don't want us to be like Scrooge McDuck, you know, diving in that gold every day and just playing with our money. He wants us to share it with other people. Not even though we don't have to. They're not asking. They didn't ask David, but he's sharing because he wanted to. Now we're going to get down here to 31. 31 verse 1. Now the Philistines fought against Israel. The Israelites fled for them. Now if y'all wasn't here last week, let me just back up a little bit. Last week, Saul went to a medium and asked her to bring up Samuel. And Samuel came, and he was still mad at Saul, and he told him, tomorrow you and your sons will be where I am, where I'm at. And that's where the dead people go. Because remember, Jesus wasn't here then, so you didn't go to heaven, you went to a different place. I'll talk about that later. And it says here, many fell slain on Mount Gilboa. The Philistines pressed hard after Saul and his sons, and they killed his son Jonathan, Abinadab, and I can't even pronounce his name. The fight grew fierce around Saul, and when the archers overtook him, they wounded him critically. Saul said to his armor bearer, draw your sword and run me through it, for the uncircumcised fellows will come and run me through and abuse me. But the armor bearer was terrified of what would not do it. So Saul took his own sword and fell on it. When the armor bearer saw that Saul was dead, he too fell on his sword and died with him. So Saul and his 3 sons and his armor bearer, all 3 his men died together the same day. Now see, this is a terrible ending for Saul's life. Because Saul was a king. He was anointed a king. He had everything, all he had. And this just shows, when people, you see people all the time talking about, well, if I had more money, I would be happy. If I had more popularity, I'd be happy. If I had whatever this world tries to offer me, I would be happy. If I had a nice house, I had a brand new car. People say these things to themselves. They convince themselves because why? It's the devil there behind their ear, just kind of tickle their ear, just telling them, this would make you happy. This would make you happy. And the thing is you see these rock stars and actors and everything else that become really famous and have all this stuff, and they die a tragic death. Because they had the fame, they had the power, they had the money, they had this, they had that, and they still wasn't happy. I talk a lot about Michael Jackson, and his death. The day Michael Jackson died, 13 people committed suicide. Because they could not live in this world without Michael Jackson. Who was their God?
Michael Jackson.
Yeah. And the thing about Michael Jackson was when they went into his house, they went in this big mansion that he had, and it was room to room packed with brand new stuff. And he would get up in the middle of the night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, call a store owner and tell them, hey, I need you to open up. And they would open up because Michael Jackson's coming down. And he was like, I want that, I want that, I want this, I want that. Just buy everything. And then he didn't enjoy it, just shove it in these rooms in this big mansion. I mean, if you go in these rooms where you're walking like this trying to get through, like on hoarder shows. He just had all that. He had everything. Fame. I mean, if you had 13 people kill yourself, there was apparently a lot of love for this man. And this man died because he couldn't sleep. He was having to get anesthesiologists to come up there and put him under every night to try to get him to sleep. Because he just didn't have no restfulness in his life. But he claimed that he loved who? God. See, there's a lot of people that claim they love God, but when it boils down to it, they really don't love God. Because they love themselves more. And this is what Saul did. Saul had it all. He could have lived a comfortable life inside of a castle, being, waited on 24/7. But instead, he's out riding around the desert trying to kill David for 15 years. And now, after he's ran from God, and that's what he's done, he's run from God so long, 15 years, God said, you know what? Enough's enough. And that's the thing, people say, oh, God gives you a lot of patience, a lot of chance, a lot of chance, He does. But eventually he's going to grow tired of you running away from Him. Every time he reaches out when you slap that hand, he reaches out when you slap that hand. What happens when you do that to a child? When they're reaching for something to slap that hand, eventually they learn not to reach for it, don't they? Well, see, God's only going to reach out so much, and after that hand's been slapped so much, he'll say, you know what? I'm going to leave you your own mess. And right now, his own mess is the Philistines. And they just unloaded on him with arrows, and now he's struck down and he's dying. And you know what he's worried about? What does it say on there? Please strike me down so they won't come and run the sword through me and accuse me. He's worried about his enemy abusing him. What's going to happen to his body when he dies? Who's worried about what happens to your body when you die? Nobody? So there's nobody? You worried? You probably got a long time there, buddy. Long time. But a lot of people out here, oh, I don't want to be buried. Because you know, that I don't want to wake up in that coffin. Oh, have you ever heard somebody say that?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I don't want to wake up in that coffin.
I won't be able to breathe that long.
Well, you know what? When you're laying on that table, they remove your eyeballs, your brains, your guts, and everything else. So you ain't waking up on that table. You're stuffed with a bunch of cotton. But the thing is, those people compare it to I'll get cremated. That's a lot easier. 4,000 degrees is what they burn you at. You know, they put you in a wood box, shove you in there at 4,000 degrees. I would be more afraid of waking up then than I would waking up in that coffin. You know? But anyway, this is what Saul's worried about, is his body. You know? Tell me right now, if you're struck and you're fixing to die, you know you're dying, you're in your last few breaths, what are you going to be worried about?
Pray to God.
I'll be worried about my relationship with that big man upstairs. I'll be worried about what he thinks of me and what I've done in my lifetime to show God that I love him. I love him more than I love anybody. I love my grandkids. I love my wife. I love people around me. But y'all ain't got no love that compares to my love for God. And that's what he's, I'm behind this pulpit. I'm preaching his word because I love him. And I'm going to try to do everything possible to get that word out to everybody. Let them know that in your last dying hour, you need to be thinking for your relationship with God Almighty. Because one day, like I say, we're all going to stand in front of God. And he's going to say, I gave you this life. Did you live it for me, or did you live it for yourself? And I know a lot of the years I've lived it for myself. And I know I can't make it up, and I'm not trying to make it up, because good deeds are not going to get you into heaven. Isn't that right, Tommy? You got to be covered in the blood. And so that's what I put my faith in. And I treat every day as it's my last. That I want to be with God. And when God asked me, I said, God, I live it for you, man. I know there's a lot of time in there I didn't, but let's just skip over that with the covering of the blood, you know? That's just kind of smooth over, because one thing, God cannot see your sin when you're covered by the blood. He cannot see your sin. And fixing to close this out, but I was going to ask too tonight, we're starting in Revelation 3 and 4. And it's really interesting. I hope y'all come tonight to listen to it. But because Revelation is a hard read, and I found some people that's really helping me on this. And so I would like to see you here tonight. And that way Joseph can sing some more songs for us.
Okay.
There you go. If you would bow your heads. I always take this time to ask if somebody wants to invite God into their life or come down and have me pray with them.